BWRT, Brainworking Recursive Therapy. It's an international, incredible tool that's been added to my toolbox. It was in 2017, I think, that I did the training, but it was developed by Terence Watts. He's in the UK and a phenomenal brain. And I hope I'm going to be doing justice to this explanation. But because there are so many different modalities out there of different techniques, I wanted to explain as much as I can what BWRT is so that you can understand it, so that you can maybe reach out to somebody that does BWRT if it could help you. Basically, our subconscious brain doesn't use the words and logic like our prefrontal cortex likes to use. Our brain, when we're talking to ourselves, we're very logical and systematical and going through things and trying to rationalize. But our subconscious brain, this is very, very briefly summed up. This is not supposed to be a science paper. This is just trying to make the connection so that one can see how we would use BWRT to help you. So our subconscious brain, which holds on to the triggers to try and protect us so that that primitive brain can kick in, fight, freeze, and fawn, kicks in when we need to protect ourselves from physical threat, from any danger, perceived or otherwise. So these triggers get solidified instantly. Most of the things, like if you're trying to learn a bicycle or drive a car, you've got to practice and practice and practice, and we create these neural pathways, and these neural pathways get solidified and created, and we're like, okay, now I've got it. Now we can drive home without even thinking about it. Sometimes even getting home going, I didn't pay attention. Did I stop at the traffic lights? How did I get home? Because it's so automated. But when we are, let's say, in an accident on the way home, it's immediately imprinted into our brain that, let's say I drove into a tree on my way home, and I really hope this isn't a trigger to anybody else, but that tree would become significant of being danger for my brain. So anytime I could be driving and in my own mind, but as soon as I get close to that tree, my whole body starts tensing up and getting anxious, and palms are sweaty, and my focus gets back on because my brain is trying to protect me from that incredibly dangerous tree. And even though my logical brain is saying, but the tree was just a tree, it was me playing on my phone or whatever might be the case, that it's not the tree, my logical brain doesn't speak the same language as my subconscious, so it doesn't understand, so it just holds on to that threat. And the reason why also most self-help books and a lot of these self-taught theories don't always help us let go of the triggers is because the trigger happens, according to the Libet experiment, 0.6 seconds before you're aware of the trigger. So the trigger happens, and only 0.6 seconds later are you aware that you were triggered. So most therapy, the things that I've been taught, CBT, all the rest, works with once you're aware with the trigger, let's create pathways back to your subconscious brain from your conscious brain. And it takes a really long time of repetition, new behaviors, new thoughts, new mantras, and all the rest. What we do with BWRT is, because we've understood now, and thanks to Terence, that your primitive brain is much more adept to understanding visualizations and using like a live video and emotions. We get to rewire the trigger. We work with a trigger directly. We get to reframe the event in the way that we would have wanted to respond. And that gives you two things. One, you get relief from the trigger because your brain doesn't want to keep holding onto that. It doesn't want to keep storing that incredibly scary thing if it's not keeping you safe. The only reason it held on to that memory, whatever the memory was, is because it felt it's keeping you safe. And if you're giving it a preferred response, this is really just a nutshell explanation, so I hope you bear with me here. But if you give it a preferred response and it still keeps you safe, your brain's going to be so relieved, like, oh, I can let go of that. And then also, this time you got to choose how you wanted to respond. So it builds your confidence as well, because a lot of our responses are either learned behaviors, all that fight, flight, freeze, and then we think afterwards, oh, I wish I responded like this, or I wish I did that. And now we get to train our brain like the way we would have wanted to respond. So it releases us to the ties to our past, and it gives us confidence by showing us that we could have responded in this way. And we give our brain the option of like, okay, so next time, this is how, if there ever had to be a next time, and that builds your confidence as well. So it's a very simple technique. It seems very simple, but your brain works incredibly hard in that moment, doing permanent rewiring of those neural pathways from where it was to where it is now, from where you've chosen it to be, because your brain at the end of the day just wants to protect you, and it generally tries to seek pleasure and avoid pain. And with BWRT, in the way that we do it in this process that we use, which is not hypnosis, you're not under hypnosis. Hypnosis, I would guide you. Here, you guide me. You direct the process. But I've seen incredible shifts, like seriously insane shifts in people from one session. Like triggers where they're sobbing uncontrollably to afterwards walking out smiling in one session. So it's one of the most powerful tools I've ever seen. It doesn't mean that it's going to take one session and everything's sorted, but with a trigger, it could be. And it makes me so grateful to be in my field that I can change lives with this. So if you're wondering what is BWRT and what makes it different to everything else, it's a reframing, working with the trigger instead of the conscious element afterwards. Please don't try and figure this out on your own and try and do it on yourself. You're welcome to, but what I generally find happens is that you can lessen the intensity, but it doesn't go away. So it's just like this feeling in the background. So if you're interested, there are BWRT therapists across the world, and I'm not doing this to advertise them in the sense that I'm affiliated or anything like that. I am part of the BWRT team because I've done the training, but the reason I want to share this is because either you can come and see me, or because there's therapists across the world that could help you with triggers that in the past might not have been successfully addressed, that have still this impact, whether it's post-traumatic stress, anxiety, depression, OCD. There's so many things. Grief work, it's incredible with grief work. There's so many things that BWRT can make a really big impact on for you, and I really wish that for you. So I wanted to share what BWRT is. If you've never heard of it, now you have. If you're curious about it and you want to find out more, you can always look up BWRT on Facebook or their website, or contact Terence Watts, or ask me for any questions. But it really is a phenomenal tool, and it's changing lives. It has changed my clients' lives for many years now. I saw a client the other day again that I haven't seen in 2 years. There was another incident that she was recently involved in, and she said it's so bizarre because when she tries to think of those memories from the 2 years ago that we worked on, they have no emotional connection anymore. They don't hurt at all anymore. And it's such a powerful tool to get testimonial after testimonial of how lives have been changed, how different people are, how they're freeing themselves to be who they wanted to be, who they knew they could be, because they're not tied back by the anchors of their past from the triggers and things that were very emotional that happened to them. I hope this makes sense, and do reach out. Have a beautiful day. Bye.